was invented about 3,500 years BC. But it was in 7th century AD, so it was 4,000 years before anybody figured out that it would be easier to read if you put spaces between the words and put in some capitals and put in maybe a bit of punctuation here and there. It took 4,000 years for them to figure that out. Isn't it amazing? The interesting thing about this is when they started doing that, almost immediately they started introducing a whole word method of teaching reading. So as soon as you saw spaces between the words, the idea that people could maybe recognize whole words instead of having to sound it out bit by bit came on board. So now you have two core methods that we have, two core strategies for reading that are the two main strategies that are being introduced in schools today even, aren't they? Phonics, decoding skills, and or whole word. What we're saying is that reading in today's literacy environment involves using all of our intelligences. How many here are familiar with Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence? You probably have came across it in your training, yeah? And in elsewhere, okay? I've put down the 8 intelligences there that I'm going to be referring to, and I've given you a website in case you want to look up any more. That website looks specifically at using multiple intelligences for reading purposes. So there's some useful information in there, okay? Verbal linguistic is the one that we most think of in terms of reading, but studies have not actually highlighted verbal linguistic universally as the main strength in readers. Actually, what shows is a mixture of profiles. Multiple intelligences differ from a sense of learning styles, and Howard Gardner makes this point. Learning styles, you know, when you hear, I'm an auditory learner, I'm a visual learner, okay? That refers to how we take information in. Multiple intelligences is referring to what we do with it when we get it inside. So it's how we interpret, how we analyze. Okay, so this is what we're suggesting. You can build confidence by finding out what your learner already reads well. And the old adage of finding out what your learner likes, what they're interested in, it can give you a good indication of maybe what they're already able to do well, because we tend to gravitate to what we do well. Help the learner to use these strengths to extend their reading strategies. Interlink practical activity with reading activity, because in particular, they mentioned that bodily kinesthetic and spatial intelligence is it tends to be unused in the classroom, but it tends to be a strength in many of our weaker readers, okay? And to think of intelligences as combinations rather than as silos. So instead of thinking musical intelligence, oh, the person's good at music, you know, a musician, he's good at music, maybe think about how he also has to maybe have a level of, you know, looking at interpersonal and intrapersonal, because music is all about conveying emotion. If he's reading music, he may have you be applying sort of his math and logical mind, because music is very logical in its order and structure. So think about combinations when someone says that they like sports, or they like cooking, or they like gardening. You know, what possible combinations might be there. And in particular, look for untapped potential, because all of us have untapped potential, but in particular, our learners have lacked opportunities to develop their potential. So you're not just looking for what they're showing, but what you might be able to draw out of them. What's there that they haven't had a chance to show yet, and in particular, maybe they're around their reading and how they can show more potential for understanding texts and things once you break that barrier of the confidence. I think we've probably all seen that. Once you start building their confidence, their improvement can surprise us.